Khamzat Chimaev had some harsh words for boxer Devin Haney. He says he unfollowed Devin after some comments he made. Back in 2020, Devin said this.
I will never lose to a white boy in my life. I don't care what nobody got to say. Listen, can't no white boy beat me on any day of the week. Fight a white boy 10 times, I'm going to beat him 10 times.
Upon seeing this footage, Khamzat said, well, I unsubscribed from his video. He's too arrogant. He says it's unforgivable for a white kid to beat him. If I say, for example, I won't lose to a black person, the whole world would say Khamzat is a bad person. What's the difference? We are all the same. When a black person says something like that, it's very unpleasant. If I say this, the whole world will talk about it. And I have black and white friends. It doesn't matter to me. You can be black, white, orange, or blue. Doesn't matter. Jorge Masvidal says that although he's not the biggest fan of Dillon Danis, he doesn't agree with Logan Paul suing him.
I'm not the biggest Dillon Danis fan, but in this particular event, like, that's not his wife, it's his fiance. And I mean, she has it out there for the world to see, right? Like, it's all public stuff that she put out there, and he just did a highlight video highlighting the stuff that she's already done. I don't believe in in bringing wives and children into it and religion, but that's not his wife. And I mean, she's the one that puts that stuff out there. I mean, from what I've seen, it's all like public stuff. Did he break into her phone and steal from her phone? That's a different story. But if you're putting that out there for the world to see, and this guy just highlighted that and then made a reel, I mean, can you get mad at him? I don't think so, you know. And it's a fight game, and the fight game is a psychological game. Who knows what's going through Logan's head? Is Logan thinking about breaking up with her more than he's thinking about breaking Dillon's face? I don't know.
Michael Bisping and Anthony Smith make the case for Charles Oliveira being the lightweight GOAT if he defeats Islam. Although they both think Charles would not defeat Khabib, they believe Charles has the better resume.
And of course, you point at Charles and you see all the losses, which most of them were at 145. And I said it again, wasn't the correct weight class. But when he came up to 155 and what he did there, I think those last 12 fights stack up better than Khabib's last 12 fights. And that's not from a point of disrespect. That's just looking at the facts and analysing and forming an opinion. And I do still stand by that. So, yeah. but he lost to Islam. So that conversation is dead in the water.
Mm-hmm.
But if he beats Islam, are you saying, Anthony? Are you, Anthony Smith, saying that Charles Oliveira, his career as a lightweight is better than Khabib Nurmagomedov's?
Yeah, I do. It depends. It depends on how he does it. Especially if he goes in there and he's dominant and looks really great doing it and just looks head and shoulders better than Islam. Yeah, I think his competitive career would be better than Khabib's. That's not me saying he's better than Khabib, because I'm saying it again. I think Khabib would come back, would do a training camp and beat Charles. But I think he would do that to everybody. I don't know that there is a lightweight that I would pick to even take a round off of Khabib.
And I think Khabib would beat Charles. I do. I really do.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, 29-0. I think he hardly lost a round throughout the entirety of his career. So the way that he went through and dominated everybody, that's what makes him stand out as well, and being undefeated. Be like Khabib. Do you know what I mean? If you're gonna be a fighter, geez Louise, that's not a bad model, is it? To get him, become the GOAT, undefeated, get out, retire on top with a vast amount of wealth. What a nice question to have Dana White come over and say, what is the number? What is the number that you want?
After rewatching Paulo Costa versus Luke Rockhold, Sean O'Malley and Tim Welch think people may be underestimating Paulo going into the fight against Khamzat Chimaev.
Dude, I watched a little bit of Paulo Costa versus Luke Rockhold this morning. Paulo Luke up bad in the first round, was beating his ass, single leg, took him down, ground and pound, was beating his ass. Wasn't that one where it was like Utah or something, high elevation?
Yep.
Because Luke was fucking gas, showed some serious heart pushing through that fight. But Paulo versus Khamzat's interesting.
I know, who was saying that they think that Khamzat's just gonna kill Paulo?
I don't know. I mean,
someone pretty smart too. They're like, oh yeah. I'm like, are you sure?
Are they that smart?
Yeah, no.
It's probably Sono. Jokes. It could have been Schmitty though.
Sean Strickland claims that he heard Israel Adesanya is going through a tough time right now.
I heard Izzy's kind of going through the time right now. I actually kind of feel bad. But with Izzy, it's starting not to be funny anymore. Because as I'm starting to understand Izzy and his love of his dog, peanut butter and all, I'm starting to realize that like he could have a form of like mental like there's something wrong with this guy. You know, so now it's just like I kind of feel bad, like I'm picking on the kid at school that eats his boogers. It's not funny anymore. I mean, it's still a little funny, but.
Chatri Sityodtong, the CEO of One Championship, says the UFC has sloppy, mediocre strikers.
Let's say the UFC is very sloppy, mediocre-ish striking because they're not strikers. You know, a typical UFC fighter is a D1 college wrestler, 7-0 in, you know, the minor leagues, and then they do a little bit of striking and then they enter the UFC. They have all these are world champions before they arrive, and they're already multiple world champions at their peak of their career when they arrive. If you look at our roster, I think UFC has about 700 athletes totally around there. But if you look at the number of world championship titles that our athletes have won before they joined One, right? It's like half the organization. You go to a UFC or a Bellator, it's like maybe 20, 30. That's maximum. That's why you see a lot of sloppy jiu-jitsu, sloppy low-level striking in those organizations, whereas in One, you see the very, very best on the planet in each of the disciplines, and of course with MMA as well. So I think, bar none, we have the most exciting experience for fans all over the world.
John Jones fired back at Chatri via Instagram comment. John wrote, "Bro, this doesn't make anybody want to watch your show anymore. You just sound like a hater. Winners focus on winning. Losers focus on winners. Stay in your lane and do the best you can. Without the UFC, there would be no One." Dana White also responded to Chatri. Here's what Dana had to say.
Yeah, so I get it. I got no beef with those guys, and you know, because I called out that production thing for Showtime, of course he comes out and, you know, says that today, or whenever he said it. But yeah, I got no beef with those guys. That was an Espinoza thing, but you have to admit, you know, the walkout thing was hilarious, and the guy comes out with the coffee, and it was like a Saturday Night Live skit, but. Yeah, I wasn't trying to take a shot at those guys. It is what it is. And I mean, in all honesty, what should my response be to what he said? I mean, I'll let that speak for itself.
And that's going to wrap it up for the news. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to subscribe to Full Mount MMA and click the bell icon to be notified when we post future ones. Here are the 3 top comments from last video. The first one's from Rob Valentine. It says, "Logan calling anyone an unreliable liar after CryptoZoo is comedy." The second one says, "Logan openly saying he's trying to ruin Danis financially is insane. He can never be called a real fighter. I almost feel bad for Danis." And the final one's from Jacob. It says, "Logan openly saying he's trying to completely ruin Dillon's life over some pictures of his wife. Shows how fragile his ego is." Those were the 3 top comments from last video. If you want to be featured on the next one, all you have to do is comment down below. If you missed yesterday's news, click the video on screen to get caught up. And make sure to go subscribe to our second channel where we post our exclusive MMA interviews.